Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about a film that came out in the spring that I didn't recently see until around just now. I rented it from a local Redbox machine. It's called The Strangers Pray at Night. This is a sequel to the film called The Strangers, which came out back in 2008. I saw that film. I really liked that film back when that came out. It starred Liv Tyler. Really enjoyable movie. It was based off real events, just to make it even scarier. And it even was loosely based off of something that happened to that director in real life, which I thought would make it even more interesting. But then we get to the sequel, The Strangers Pray at Night. Also loosely based off, I'm sure, things that have happened at some point in time, though probably not as true as the first Strangers movie. But in this new movie, you guys, it does center around a family that has a teenage daughter that's kind of struggling, probably has some type of drug addiction. It's never really clear in the movie what kind of problem that their daughter has. But they do move to this trailer park area roughly around Labor Day. So roughly around this time of year for those who are watching this, around the time I post this. And so they move there. There's some type of rehab clinic or school or some kind that will basically benefit the daughter if she goes there. I know that she smokes throughout the movie, so maybe it's clear that she has some type of drug problem or something. But basically, they move there, and right away, this trailer park is kind of off. There's not a lot of people there, though it's usually used for vacation time for a lot of people. It is also is a place where people can kind of rent out these trailers and live there for a while. They had a relative there who lived there for a while, I guess back in the winter at some point, they said in the movie. So right there, they kind of had that family connection and kind of already cleared that it was kind of safe and already okay to live there and stuff. So they kind of just base it off of that. But when they get there, they basically have these weird occurrences happen. You know, people are knocking on the door. They're asking for people there who don't live there, who clearly aren't there in that trailer park. And so they just kind of leave for a while. But then, you know, the knocking on the door happens again. Their phones are out of service when they leave the trailer and they come back. All their trailers are getting my words mixed up. All their phones are destroyed within the trailer, so they really can't reach out to anybody. They even try to reach out where like the resource office is for this trailer park, and even the phones there don't work. So throughout the course of this movie, they have to figure out what are they going to do, how can they escape, if the cars have the wheels, if the tires are cut or whatever, or if they have no way of leaving this trailer park, what are their options. Is there any way they can contact the outside world in this trailer park somehow? And all of this is done through these people who are wearing these masks, just like in the first Strangers movie. And so they have to figure out, what exactly do these people want? Do they want them gone? Are they just kind of residents gone evil or anything of that nature? So basically they have to figure out all this stuff over the course of The Strangers Pray at Night. So overall, guys, I thought this movie was all right. One thing that kind of excited me about the sequel was it was being directed by the guy who did 47 Meters Down, which I really liked a lot. 47 Meters Down was probably on my top 10 best of the year for 2017. I really liked that movie a lot. It was very thrilling, very scary at the right times. So I was hoping that director was going to bring his skill set from that movie over to this movie. And I kind of sort of got that. There's things about this movie that I thought didn't translate as well as the first Strangers film did. I thought the first Strangers film put things in perspective a little bit more. They kind of give you, they don't exactly tell you, but they give you a little more reason for why these strangers are doing things the way they are. Like I said, they don't flat out tell you in the first movie, and they don't do it in this movie either, but I thought the first one, there was kind of more things going on in it. There was something more going for that. This movie was more so like straight up home invasion thriller kind of movie. Kind of like the first one. They don't really tell you why these people are doing these really awful things to these people at this trailer park. But let's go over some positives and negatives of what I liked and didn't like about The Strangers Pray at Night. So for things I liked about Strangers Pray at Night, I liked the nostalgic vibe horror thriller that I got out of this movie. It definitely is in the spirit of Christine and other older John Carpenter films. It's definitely in the spirit of things you would see in the 80s involving home invasion or families gone evil or families struggling and dealing with people that clearly are out to harm them. It has that kind of feeling to it. It even has kind of a 80s grain to it in certain scenes, which I thought was kind of interesting. So I like the vibe they were going for in this film. It was more more in the spirit of the 80s, but they kind of kept that horror thriller tone throughout it as well. So I like the nostalgic feel they went for in this movie. This film is also very entertaining. It's definitely a film where I never really felt bored in it. I felt entertained the whole time. I felt like I was kind of always curious to see what was going on next. I was always trying to see what kind of connections this possibly could have had to the first film. There's not a lot of it, but there is very loose connections, I would say. So it's a very entertaining film. I definitely never felt bored in it, so that's always a positive thing I could say about the movie. I also liked all the homages and references to the first film. There's scenes in this movie that have lines that are very much in the spirit of the first movie. There's props and costumes and things of that nature that are definitely in the spirit of the first movie. There's even situations, I would say, that these characters face that are in the spirit of the first movie too. So for those who are looking for things that kind of throw you back to that first Strangers movie, I think there's things in this movie that definitely are in the spirit of that as well, which I thought was kind of interesting. And like I mentioned before, this film does have like an old John Carpenter feel. It even has references to Christine, which is a film that he worked on back in the 80s, which was a adaptation of a Stephen King novel. There's even a car lit on fire that moves around at one point in the movie that definitely was in the spirit of Christine. So I liked kind of that old John Carpenter feeling of this movie. Not as stylistically as interesting as one of his movies, but they definitely make it in the spirit of one of his movies. At least they attempt to in this movie. One thing I thought they did get right in this movie, as far as like the home invasion thriller part of the movie went, is the limited resources that the characters had available to them. So if there's only one knife or one gun in the trailer park, that is the only knife and gun in the trailer park they can use against these strangers. So I like how it really felt limited. They really didn't feel like they had a lot of things available to them. So I like how when they're in difficult situations, they kind of have to deal with more things than maybe other people in their own homes would have to deal with. Maybe people in their own homes would know where certain things are in case a bad situation like this were to happen. These people do not. These is unfamiliar territory to them. So if they need a weapon of some kind, they're going to have to look around more than somebody who is living in their home while this is going on. For negatives of this movie, I thought the overall film was just way too short. This film's only about an hour and 25 minutes, and that includes end credits. So if you include just physical footage of the movie being shown to you, that's probably only about an hour and 21 minutes, maybe roughly. So only about 81 minutes of actual footage is shown here, and like I said, the other 4 minutes is just end credits. So it's just way too short, and I feel like when you make a film this short, it's just not enough time for characters, not enough time for scares, not enough time for a story, really. It just felt like it kind of cut itself short a little bit as a result. So I thought a longer running time, maybe 10 or 15 more minutes, whether that means more time with the strangers or more time with this family, because I really feel like there could have been more to this family than what they showed. It's basically just the troubled teenager, the supportive mom, the struggling dad, and the kind of struggling son slash brother. So there's really not a lot to this family besides they act in ways that maybe some people could relate with, but they also act in ways that maybe people can't relate to as much to. So I thought the length of this film kind of ruined this movie in the sense that there could have been a lot more that could have been done with it, and they cut themselves short with too short of a runtime. And that goes to my next negative on the movie. I thought there just wasn't enough family moments or scare moments to kind of warrant a sequel to The Strangers, because the first movie, I thought that you learn a little bit more about that couple in that movie, and you also learn, like I said, and there's more things about the first movie that kind of suggest maybe why these strangers are doing things the way they are. Like, for example, in the first movie, they were newlywed, they moved into a new house, they have a lot of land, they have a lot of things that maybe people would want. So the first film kind of suggested maybe the strangers wanted that home and maybe they didn't get it. So maybe that was the reason why they were doing that horrible things the way they were. In this film, you really kind of don't know why. You really don't know why they're doing what they're doing. It's just they're living in this trailer park for a little while, and all of a sudden, boom, the killers come out and try to kill them. That's really all there is to it. So I thought there just could have been more material and more worthy material shown for this movie. I also thought the musical score choices was kind of unfitting for this movie. It's one of those movies where they try to have like classical happy music happening while dark situations are occurring. And though that works in other movies, it doesn't really work in this movie. I felt like it just felt like they didn't really know what kind of musical score they wanted, so as a result, they took some classical music that they liked, put it along with the darker moments of the movie, and that was their score. And I thought that was kind of not so great of a choice. I also thought the trailer park environment setting they used in this movie just felt really limited. It was just trailers, a swimming pool, and an office. That's really all they had to work with in this movie. I guess there was a bridge at one point. Like there's like a bridge where when you drive by the area, you drive by this bridge, and then you kind of go along back on the highway again. There's like an area that's kind of like that, but I thought the overall environment wasn't as interesting because in the first Strangers movie, they had not only their home, but they had a big amount of land. They had a big forest behind them. They even had like a warehouse thing that they find in that first Strangers movie. So there's just more to work with, I thought, in that first movie. And in this one, it's just like it's a trailer park with like 1 out of 3 places you could film at. So it's just like there's really wasn't a lot of interesting places they could have filmed at in this trailer park. So there's just a lot of things going on in this movie that could have been better. But when it does well, it does the things. The things that they do right are done very well, but the things that they don't do right are really not done very well at all. So I guess if that makes any sense at all to anybody. So The Strangers Prey at Night, I'm going to give this a 7.5 out of 10. When, like I said, when it works well, it really works well, and when it doesn't, it really doesn't work well. So 7.5 out of 10 for me, it's all right. I can't highly recommend it, but I can't completely say to avoid this one either, just because if you do like the first Strangers film, there's things going on in this movie that are really enjoyable. But if you really didn't care about that first Strangers movie, or if this is kind of your first time experiencing a Strangers movie, there is things going for it that really aren't so strong either. So 7.5 out of 10 for me. It's all right. Kind of go into this with your own caution.